My ex cheated, and his mother tried to tear me apart from my baby, so I fought back with everything I had and left them stunned in court. My ex-husband Bill and I chose to end our marriage amicably. There was no cheating or anything like that, there was just too much stress due to some issues that happened. Feel free to read my previous posts on my profile for that debacle. We both decided that divorce was for the best. I seem to be a magnet for unstable people, my mother, my ex-friend, her mother, incels. My life is chaotic sometimes. Both of us were feeling the strain, and our mental health was taking hits all the time. We argued a lot, even over the pettiest reasons. Our eldest son, Brandon, was being affected by it. We had stopped going to couples therapy and weren't even sleeping together as much as we used to. I would often sleep in bed, and Bill would sleep on the couch in his office. Bill knew what he was getting into, but he decided after our youngest was born that he couldn't deal with it as he thought. After talking about it and trying to come up with solutions, we chose to end our marriage. It hurt and broke our eldest son's heart, but we agreed to stay friends, and so far, it has been working out fine. Bill is still in our lives, has a room for our kids at his place, and takes our eldest to school every morning. He visits a couple of days out of the week. He and I have lunch twice a week to talk about the kids and keep each other updated. We're a divorce court judge's dream. It was the best decision we made, or at least I thought so. I moved myself and the boys into a 2-bedroom apartment, and I am working full-time as a bartender at a gentleman's club. I love my job. I've only been there a few weeks, and I am making good money, close to $1,000 a week just in wages and tips. With alimony and child support, we're sitting pretty. I am trying to lose weight so I can become a dancer at the club. I'm doing the keto diet and going to the gym regularly. I'm shedding the pounds I want to lose, and I'm already down a dress size. I have always struggled with my weight. I was never overweight, but not exactly skinny. I am white, but I have what some call a ghetto booty. The women in my family always had big hips, big boobs, and big thighs. I'm also using a waist trainer to help with my figure and posture. I do my hair and makeup and go to work looking and feeling like a movie star. I have long dark hair and green eyes. I started getting spray tans when we moved to this city, and I have fallen in love with it. I feel good about myself for the first time in years, and I am an ever-evolving work in progress. I am what you would consider to be a mutt, as I have a lot of different cultures in my bloodline, mostly German. I have to brag here. Even Bill turns his head whenever I walk into the room and tells me he regrets not having me in bed whenever he wants. I admit, I get a little satisfaction from that. I used to dress super frumpy and didn't bother much beyond a shower and brushing my teeth. I also want to add that I never attended college. Bill is tall with a deep olive complexion, jet black hair he keeps slicked back, a full beard he keeps short, and large golden brown eyes. He dresses well and has an ass that makes me drool. He has always been in good shape, and since our move here, he has gone to the gym to stay fit. He is full-blooded Greek, as his parents immigrated to the United States right after they got married. His father found success in real estate, while his mother maintained the family home. They lived in wealthy comfort in a massive house in Connecticut until they moved to my old state. Their home in my old state is just as massive and considered a mansion. It's on an old plantation that they turned into a beautiful estate. Bill went to college, got his bachelor's degree, and quickly got an internship at his current career, where he makes 6 figures. Maybe I'm biased, but he is the perfect man, at least on the surface. Needless to say, I was nowhere in my ex-husband's league, but his family welcomed me with open arms. They were the family I always dreamed of having, the opposite of my family in every way. I loved them so much and called my in-laws Mom and Dad. We always got along and talked almost daily. My mother-in-law often sent me recipes for Greek dishes to learn how to cook for Bill because he loved them. We often went to a little Greek bistro as a family, and I make it a point to have our eldest try foods from Bill's country. You can imagine my surprise when my mother-in-law called me to chastise me about the divorce. She said that if I had been a better wife and lover, Bill would have stayed with me. She said that divorcing him twice was just too great a sin to forgive, and I needed to find God and pray for forgiveness for my wicked ways. I reminded her that Bill cheated on me to cause the first divorce and broke things off with me for the second one. I don't know where this was coming from, but she needs to have this talk with her son. She blew up at me, saying my new job is tempting sin and that it was the devil's playground. She said my body would be soiled for her son and he wouldn't want to be with a woman like me. I reminded her that Bill and I are divorced. She said I chased him away. She said every picture she received from us since I began bettering myself wasn't worth going into her albums because I looked like a whore in them. I got upset and told her it wasn't my looks that were the problem. It was her son's decision and all the stress from the situation with Karen and my mother that caused it. She said Bill told her that was just one reason, and that I wasn't the beautiful, demure woman he married anymore and didn't want to be with a whoring whore. I started to cry in disbelief that my mother-in-law would be so mean to me after she had been so kind to me all these years. It blindsided me. The club where I work is not a typical strip club. It is a gentleman's club that caters to the higher elite of my city's society. Our prices are not cheap. The dancers are only allowed to show their breasts during private dances, and they have to keep their lingerie on while working the poles. I know that isn't standard, but a lot of the dancers prefer it that way. Private parts have to be covered at all times regardless. There is no touching allowed, and a distance of 6 feet is heavily enforced by our bouncers for private dances. Due to COVID, lap dances are no longer allowed because of an assault that happened long before I started working there. I know the story, and I can share it another time. The stage is protected by a wide barrier that maintains a comfortable 6-foot distance between the dancers and the spectators. My boss is all about safety and doesn't take nonsense from anyone, even the customers who think their money is their get-out-of-jail-free card to treat the dancers and bartenders as they please. He has thrown out several people since I started working there. One man was demanding I show him my breasts and pour liquor on them so he could lick it off. My boss hauled his drunk ass out of the club like a sack of potatoes. Go, boss man! He invested millions into the club. He is a good man who provides for his family. His wife is one of our dancers, and she is a certified 10, even after having 3 kids. She and I have become good friends, and she is giving me tips on how to get in better shape. I adore her. I guess I can understand why my mother-in-law would have reservations about my job, but it was no excuse for her to treat me that way. I hung up on her and called Bill, asking him to come over. As soon as he walked in, I confronted him about what his mother said. He assured me that it wasn't true, and that he didn't know why she said those things. I asked him if he was bitter because of my job and that I had been bettering myself. He said no, and that he was happy for me. He called his mother, put her on speakerphone, and asked her why she was so cruel to me. My mother-in-law got upset, feeling ganged up on. She admitted it was a lie, but said she was only looking out for Bill. Bill sighed and said it wasn't appropriate to speak to me like that. He said he was the one who wanted the divorce, not me. He reminded her of all the hell I had gone through, to which she said I brought that into their lives. I snapped and reminded her that she brought Karen into my life, who put me and my family through hell for the last fucking year. She began crying. Bill looked guilty, like he wanted to apologize for making his mother cry, but he said she should apologize to me for being unkind and holding my past against me. She went silent, then hung up. I went to work that night and had a miserable shift. I have horrible butterfingers when I am overly stressed or upset, and I broke several bottles of alcohol that night. My boss gave me crap about it, and I felt so awful inside that I barely managed to hold it together. He called me to his office after my shift and asked what was up. I explained the situation to him, and he apologized. I had told him and his wife about my past, so they understand why I get like I do sometimes. Certain things trigger me, I can't help it. He said it was okay and not to worry about it. He gave me the following night off and told me to take a day for myself to calm down. I cried myself to sleep when I got home. Bill came over the next day with flowers and took me to lunch. He said he spoke to his father, Phil. Phil told him that the divorce had been hard for my mother-in-law too, and she couldn't stand thinking that her son could be the cause of both divorces. She was in complete denial about it, so she pointed the blame at me, using my job as her justification to be so nasty. No way her wonderful son, whom she raised so well, could have strayed so far. Phil did express his disappointment in Bill for taking the easy way out and divorcing me, believing that any couple can overcome their problems with time and healing, but he wasn't going to push the issue. My mother-in-law did apologize eventually after talking with Bill. She said she was just frustrated and didn't want to admit or accept that he did anything wrong. She assumed I was just trying to make him jealous of other men because of my job and my self-improvement, and she didn't mean anything she said. She told Bill this, not me directly, so I don't know if her apology was genuine or just to appease him. After thinking about it for a while, I decided to forgive her, sort of. But things won't be as they were. Only Bill will now be in charge of sending photos and keeping her updated about the kids, and I asked him not to discuss me at all, not even to say I'm doing fine. If she calls me, I won't be picking up. This is the first instance of such behavior from her that I have experienced. She welcomed me with open arms into the family, embraced my eldest son, claims him as her grandchild, and was always kind to me, never once judging me for my past until now. I don't know what to think or why she decided to be like this. I know people sometimes deserve second chances, but I would rather not give them the option to prove me wrong, so I'll be going no contact with her for a while. Bill came over to talk to me last night about my mother-in-law, and I said I didn't want to discuss it anymore. I made my decision, and I would be sticking to it until I felt ready to talk to her. Bill thinks I'm overreacting and being unreasonable. He said I needed to be more understanding, that she is a Catholic who believes divorce is a sin. He acknowledges that it is his fault for both divorces, but he added that I could have made more of an effort to be emotionally invested in our marriage. He then went on to say my job is a problem for her and maybe I should consider looking at something else to make her happy. I saw red. I got pissed and told him to pound sand. My job makes me happy, and that is all that matters. I don't care if my mother-in-law has a problem with it. I don't care if he does either. It's my life. He chose to leave, not me. I won't be told what to do by anyone. My job provides for me and my kids and keeps a roof over our heads. I reminded him that his alimony and child support, while appreciated, aren't needed, and I can manage alone without his help, even with 2 fucking kids. I won't apologize for my job. I also won't apologize for bettering myself and finally finding the self-confidence I didn't know I had. And I won't apologize for his effing mistakes. First the cheating, then deciding his wife's trauma was too much of a stressor on his fragile existence. I won't roll over for anyone ever again. I then said that I'm not his effing wife anymore, so he and his mother don't get a say in what I do. I told him to get the fuck out. I won't let people walk all over me anymore, not even Bill. I don't know if I'm overreacting, but I don't think I am. This man came into my life and took me and my son into his family. He adopted my eldest as his own and rescued him when he was kidnapped by my psycho-fucking mother. We had a child together. I found out he was cheating on me for an entire year with some shameless slut at his job, and I took him back and married him for the second time after forgiving him. Then his mother brings another psycho into my life, and I am the one having to deal with it. I had my body picked apart and ridiculed, my privacy was violated, I was threatened, and my marriage was tested, but he blames me for the breakdown of our marriage because I wasn't emotionally invested enough. I did the damn best I could. I worked hard, maintained the house, and took care of our kids. I never asked for anything for myself and always put him and my kids before me. But I am to blame? Yeah, fuck that. I don't owe anyone. I sat down and took the time to really think about everything. I'm realizing now that my marriage was based on my subconscious desire to have someone there to protect me rather than standing on my own 2 feet. I had grown up living in fear all my life, and when Bill came into my life, I felt safe, but it wasn't the safety I wanted. Being divorced, standing on my own, and defending myself against my ex-mother-in-law and Bill has given me perspective, and I feel freer than I did before. I am able to live my life on my own terms and provide for my kids, and I couldn't be happier with how everything turned out. Sadly, it took a lot of heartbreak, pain, and drama to get here, but I like to think that I'm stronger because of it. My ex-in-laws are here in town and wanted to see me to discuss everything. I didn't want to, but Bill pleaded with me, so I went. We met up at the bistro and sat down, the 4 of us. My ex-mother-in-law got right into the discussion without giving us a chance to order drinks. She apologized to me directly this time, stating that she didn't mean to hurt me, but was frustrated about my job and insisted I find something else. She doesn't want to tell her friends or family that her grandson's mother works at a strip club and says it is tempting sin again. I told her I'm not sleeping with any of the men who come into my job. I then said that if it bothers her that much, she should not say anything about me. I don't want her saying anything about me at all to strangers anyway. She started crying and praying right there at the table, and I was getting pretty annoyed. I began to realize that this wasn't new behavior. Whenever she would get upset and wanted to shift the blame or ignore what was being told to her, she would start crying and praying for the person who was upsetting her. I was close to losing my shit. She finally calmed down, wiped her tears, and said that Bill and I should get back together and get remarried at the courthouse. It would absolve our sins in the eyes of God. She then commanded I quit my job, stop wearing makeup, and abandon the new wardrobe I had gotten for myself. She even suggested I cut my hair. Absolutely not, lady. It took me years to grow my hair to the length it is now. My brother had chopped off a big chunk of my hair on the side of my head, and I had to cut my hair in a pixie style just to avoid looking terrible. I've been growing my hair out ever since, aside from trims every so often. I refused to cut it. I said no and got up to leave, but Bill insisted I stay because he had something to say. Fam, when I tell you this man couldn't look any worse, he manages to surprise me. He tells us that he has been lying to all of us. He admits that he has been seeing someone else behind my back for the last 4 months. While I've been home taking care of the kids and maintaining the house, he has been sleeping with another woman on his so-called office days. He said he wasn't attracted to me anymore because I was letting myself go. He expressed frustration that I only care about my appearance now instead of when we were married. He then said that he didn't want to be a father to my kids anymore and wanted to be done with me permanently. He will continue to pay the alimony and child support, but does not want to see me or the kids. My ex-mother-in-law and ex-father-in-law were shocked into silence. I could only sit there and stare at this man. My ex-mother-in-law began crying, while my ex-father-in-law tried to comfort her. In just a few short weeks, Bill went from being the wonderful, upstanding gentleman to a cowardly, sinful adulterer and child abandoner in her eyes. I actually felt sorry for her. My ex-father-in-law then asked if Bill was still seeing the other woman. Bill said yes, and that he didn't mean for it to go this far, but he didn't want to hurt anyone more than he's already done. I don't know why, but I was so angry I could only laugh. This man lied to me, divorced me under false pretenses, and has been seeing some other woman since right after my youngest son was born. Now, a lot of the weird things he had done during that time made sense. While my ex-in-laws were going nuts on him, I just sat there. The manager had to come out and tell us all to be quiet. Bill looked at me and begged for my forgiveness, saying he was sorry, but he just couldn't handle life attached to me anymore, even if that meant giving up his rights to the kids. I ordered a cocktail from the manager, who was still standing there looking confused. I was smiling the entire time. When the waitress brought the cocktail, she handed it directly to me. I said thank you, then threw the cocktail in Bill's face. I stood up and walked out. Bill sent me a text saying he'll be sending my kids' belongings to me and blocked me on everything. My ex-mother-in-law sent me a text saying she would not be bothering me anymore. She was heartbroken over what her son has done, and she and my ex-father-in-law will be cutting him out of their lives as well. I didn't respond. I feel bad for her and my ex-father-in-law, but my only thoughts are with my kids right now. My eldest will have to be spoken to, and I don't know how to even go about having that conversation. I decided to keep him out of school tomorrow so I can take him to my therapy session, and we can do it there. I picked my kids up from the sitters, then took them home. Brandon knows something is up, but I am not ready to talk about it with him yet. My mind is all over the place. I am crushed to have to tell him he is losing another dad. I don't want to lie to him, but I don't want to break his heart. Bill is such a fucking asshole for this. This isn't fair to my kids at all. I hate him for this. I fucking hate him with everything in my soul, all for some other woman. I called my boss and told him I needed to take a couple of days off to figure things out and explained the situation. He understood and told me to take the time I needed. A friend of mine will have the kids at her place when I work. She has kids of her own, one of them being in my son's class. Yes, I am paying her, just to clarify. No, I am not angry at Bill for cheating on me again. I always knew in the back of my mind that he would. I wanted to trust him, but he showed me that he hasn't changed. I'm actually fine with it. What I am not okay with is him abandoning the kids. He's not the man I loved. He's someone else entirely and put on an act for years. I don't know what to do about my ex-in-laws. It's not their fault Bill lied to them too, and they were acting based on what he was telling them. I did text them that they could come over tomorrow to see the kids after therapy, and we can talk. They said they would, so we'll see how that goes. I won't deprive them of the chance to be grandparents to my boys just because their son is an asshole. I will now be going for official child support and full custody of my kids to protect them. That's it, fam. I don't know if I'll have an update after this. I'll still post stories about my mother occasionally, but for now, I'm going to have a tall glass of wine and watch the latest hot episode before going to sleep. Happy ending? Just fuck, fam. Ugh. I was not expecting to update, as I hoped today would be a fresh start for me and my kids. Unfortunately, this day couldn't be over fast enough. My ex-mother-in-law has truly lost her mind. She wants to take my baby with her and my ex-father-in-law to effing Greece for a year without me. I took my kids to my therapy session today, and we broke the news to my eldest son, Brandon. He was understandably upset, but understood. I was honest to a point. I told him Bill had decided not to be a part of our lives anymore, and that it would just be me, him, and his baby brother from now on. It is the truth. But I left out the cheating part. Brandon knows about the first time Bill cheated on me, and that hurt him pretty badly. I'll tell him the truth when he is older. We discussed my ex-in-laws as well, and my therapist said that, based on what she understands of the situation, seeing them might be counterproductive, but ultimately left the choice up to me. Brandon decided he didn't want to see them, and in truth, neither did I, but I did decide to meet with them with my youngest. I dropped Brandon off at my friend's house and went to meet with my ex-in-laws at the bistro, as I wasn't comfortable with them knowing where I live. They fawned over the baby, who was all smiles and giggles. I ordered food and just sat quietly to eat while they spent time with him. My ex-mother-in-law cried that my son was the spitting image of his father, and I shifted uncomfortably but forced a smile and nodded my head. Not once did they ask about Brandon. I told them that I didn't mind them being in my kids' lives, but there would have to be boundaries set in place. I laid out my terms, which were very reasonable. They can do Zoom calls, and we can visit for Christmas, provided I have the money to make the trip. I will not be told how to dress or how to live my life by them or anyone else. My lifestyle and my job are my business, and they will not interfere anymore. I also do not accept religion in my life, and I do not want my children being indoctrinated. If at any point my children decide they want to accept religion, it is their decision, and no one will make it for them. I will also not be told what to do with my kids, as they are mine, and I am their mother. That is it. My terms are non-negotiable. They did not like this, and they both began to argue. I told them I won't accept anything other than them agreeing to my terms, and if not, they will never see us again. I will initiate no contact permanently. My ex-father-in-law agreed, but my ex-mother-in-law began to cry and pray. I told her to stop because that crap doesn't work on me anymore. I will not be manipulated into submitting to her will. I am not her dancing monkey to order around to dance at her command. She went stone silent, and after some prompting from my ex-father-in-law, she nodded, then looked at my son, who had fallen asleep in her arms. She then smiled like she was up to something. She got to talking about how great it would be if they took my son to Greece with them on their trip. The family would love him, and he would fit in perfectly there. No one would know he is half white, his hair is so dark, just like Bill's. He would love it there, and her sisters would adore him. I went as still as a rock, and the smile on my ex-mother-in-law's face told me all I needed to know. She looked at me and said, "We're going to Greece for a year to be with family there. My sisters haven't seen us for a long time, and I want to introduce the baby to them. You shouldn't mind, it is our home country after all. He should be introduced to our culture. We'll bring him back a year isn't that long." She was talking about it like she was trying to sell me a vacation. It may be their home country, but it isn't mine. My jaw hit the floor. The fucking audacity. I'm paraphrasing here, but I said, absolutely not. Not only is it inappropriate to even suggest taking my son away from me, his mother, for a whole left-in goddamn overseas year, it is severing the bond that I have with him. He won't know who I am in a year. I would be a complete stranger to him. You also want to take him away from his older brother, who loves him to death. You are crazy if you think I would ever entertain such a crazy idea. My ex-mother-in-law went total cat-butt-faced and glared at me. My ex-father-in-law sighed and looked at his wife. You can't expect her to agree to something like that. Would you agree to it if it were your son? My ex-mother-in-law snapped and said she did lose her son, and I said, so your solution is to steal mine? She then went quiet for a while and looked like she had a moment of clarity. She looked at my son again, and I saw actual tears, which surprised me. She then said that she was so heartbroken over Bill that losing him was like losing a piece of herself, and my son is all she has left of him. She apologized and promised she would honor my wishes. She said she loves us but has a hard time letting go. Bill has shattered her spirit, and she thought my son could be how she heals from the heartbreak. I told her that she has every reason to be upset with Bill and that none of this is her fault, but she needs help because religion is not the fix for every problem. It's only giving her temporary relief as she keeps her head buried in the sand to avoid facing her problems. Sometimes, you have to stop using it as a crutch and deal with your issues head on. I told her I can't go back to living on someone else's terms. I am still in therapy dealing with the trauma of my past, and it isn't fair to impose her will on me, even if she believes it is for my own good. She did ask if the trauma of my past is what led to me being a stripper. I told her I wasn't currently a stripper, I am a bartender, but I will be switching to dancing once I am at a weight I feel comfortable with. Dancers make way more money than bartenders do, and as her son has decided to fuck off and leave me with 2 kids to take care of alone, I'll do whatever it takes to provide for them. I then told her my past trauma is my own burden to bear, and I will not let it ruin me as it has others. It is why I am in therapy. My therapist knows about my desire to become a dancer and has not discouraged me from pursuing it. I told her that any extra money I make is going into my kids' college funds so they won't have to struggle as I did. She actually appreciated that and said she would back off, even if she doesn't agree with it. I told her that was fine, and I understood her concerns. We then talked about Bill. They admitted that they likely won't cut him off permanently, but they are apprehensive and decided they needed time and told him not to call them for a while. Even though it breaks their hearts to do it, he wasn't happy but ultimately said he would honor their wishes. They lamented over where they went wrong with him. I told them it wasn't their fault. Bill is a grown-ass man who makes his own decisions. He decided to throw his life away, and all he is now is that woman who will likely leave him if word gets out about what he's done. Considering my one friend is such a blabbermouth, I don't think it will take very long. We talked about Greece and my ex-mother-in-law's sisters. They will be gone for a year, as one of her sisters has cancer and doesn't have long left. And all of this drama with Bill has left them feeling emotionally drained. I think the time away from the United States will do them some good, especially my ex-mother-in-law. We agreed on weekly Zoom calls, exchanged hugs, and then I returned home with both of my sons after picking Brandon up. All in all, despite my ex-mother-in-law's temporary insanity, I'm happy with how the meeting went. Finally, I can breathe peace at effing last. In truth, life is amazing right now. I have dropped enough weight, and I am in the best shape of my life. I go to the gym 4 times a week, all the while balancing my job, raising my kids, maintaining my home, and taking pole dancing classes. I'm on my way to becoming a dancer, but for now, I'm sticking with bartending while doing private dances at the club. I'm making great money. I've even started seeing one of the bouncers at my job. We'll call him Kyle. He's a sweet, caring man who isn't afraid to speak his mind. He is former military and really good looking too. Think Jax Teller from Sons of Anarchy. They could be twins. Yes, he knows about my past. Kyle is one of those social media junkies who likes posting just about everything on his Facebook. One night out at dinner, he took a photo of us together and posted it with the caption "Future Wife." As sweet and adorable as that is, I asked him to take it down, as I'm not totally comfortable being on social media just yet. But by then, the damage was already done. One of the more yours girls, Samantha, at the club is mutual friends with my ex, Bill. She knows he is my ex-husband and is aware of the divorce and all the drama. She is the type of girl who likes to stir up a bunch of shit, then sit back and watch the fallout with a gleeful smile on her face. If she wasn't friends with my boss's wife, he would have fired her a long time ago. She routinely shows up late, gossips about everyone she works with, has drunk herself into a stupor more than once, and beaten up a client. When he didn't pay her more than she thought she deserved, and that was all after I started working there a few months ago. She is incredibly toxic, and most of us just avoid her. Long story short, she saved the picture and showed Bill, and he went postal. Samantha came into work a couple of days ago and informed me that Bill somehow found out about Kyle and is really upset and has made threats to come to my job. As mad as I was, I told her I didn't care. She horribly feigned sympathy and wished me luck. I informed my boss and Kyle of what Samantha had said. They assured me they would keep a lookout and not to worry. Last night, during my shift, I was behind the bar serving drinks like usual. Ever since Samantha told me Bill was making threats to come to my job, I had been nervously keeping one eye on the door at all times. Sure enough, he shows up with two of his equally douchey friends. It was almost comical how alike they looked: slicked back hair, polos tucked into dress pants, blazers, and effing sunglasses at night. I wanted to bury my head in the floor in shame for having seen anything in this man, or considered him marriage material. I tried to ignore him and go back to serving drinks. He noticed me and made a beeline for the bar, with Thing 1 and Thing 2 following right behind him. This is when he was intercepted by my boss, Kyle, and one other bouncer, Greg. I couldn't hear the conversation between them over the music playing, but I could tell from their body language that things were getting heated. It began to draw a crowd pretty fast, and before I knew what happened, Kyle grabbed Bill by his jacket and proceeded to usher him out the door, kicking and screaming, while Greg and my boss escorted Thing 1 and Thing 2 out after him. It was pretty anticlimactic, but I'm glad no one was hurt, mostly. After work was finished, I asked Kyle what was said. He told me Bill was pissed that I couldn't bother to improve myself during our marriage, and that I had moved on, and he wanted me back. When Kyle established that he was the man in my life, Bill called me a slut and a whore and some other colorful words. That was when Kyle grabbed him and violently threw him out of the club onto his ass in the parking lot and said if he harassed me again, he would fuck him up. Thing 1 and Thing 2 came out right after and helped Bill to his feet. They got in the car with their pride wounded and peeled out of the parking lot. I'm thankful the situation didn't escalate. So far, Bill hasn't tried showing up at my apartment. I'm hoping he takes Kyle's warning seriously. I'm happily moving on with my life. My ex-in-laws and my ex showed up at my fucking job during the biggest event of the year. Every year at my job, there is a Christmas-themed party. The dancers dress up as sexy elves. My boss dresses up as Santa. The bartenders dress up as reindeer. And the bouncers dress up as snowmen. The place is beautifully decorated as a winter wonderland, with a huge throne for my boss to sit on, and custom poles for the dancers to dance around him. It's a huge thing at my job, and it is always one of the highest-grossing nights of the year. It's advertised all over town that people can come get their pictures taken with us, sit on Santa's lap, and enjoy a fun evening with custom Christmas music made by a DJ. We even have Christmas-themed drinks, guys, and they are so good. I was so excited for it because I started working there this year, so it was my first time being part of this event. I was dancing that evening, so I was dressed up as a sexy elf. I was feeling great. It was pretty late into the evening, around midnight, when this incident took place. I was dancing on stage when, out of nowhere, I heard the shrieking sound of my ex-mother-in-law crying. I turned around, and there they were, my ex-mother-in-law, my ex-father-in-law, and effing Bill. My ex-mother-in-law was slapping at Bill's arm and pointing at me. I couldn't make out what she was saying over the music. All I could hear was the shrill sound of her voice. I started looking around for Kyle, my boyfriend. I couldn't see him, but I did see other bouncers, so I waved at them, trying to get their attention. We have a special wave that, when a bouncer sees it, they know to come running. Bill came to the stage and started shouting at me while the men around him were waving cash at me. He told me to come down and to come with him, that I was bringing shame to his family. I ignored him. I saw a couple of bouncers heading for us, so I kept dancing, believing I was saved. That was protocol: call the bouncer and keep working to avoid making a scene. It was then I felt someone grab my ankle and pull. In my panic, I fell and let out a scream. I looked up, and it was Bill. He had pulled himself onto the stage and grabbed me. I started kicking at him with my other foot until the bouncers finally got there and pulled him away from me. I felt someone else grab me, and I screamed again, but when I looked up, I saw it was Kyle. Bill and my ex-in-laws were taken into the office, while I was taken backstage to ride out the panic attack. Kyle held me until I calmed down. The police were called, and I got to watch as Bill was forced into the back of a police cruiser in handcuffs. He's being charged with public disturbance, assault, and trespassing. My boss was talking to my ex-in-laws, telling them not to come back and warning them that the police would be called if they did. Despite how pissed he was, my boss was pretty calm and polite. I then heard my ex-mother-in-law shouting about how she was going to take me to court to take my children away from me because a godless whore like me wasn't fit to be a mother. I couldn't take hearing that, and I rushed at her. Kyle had to grab me and stop me, but I was screaming at her that she was a psychopath, and she would never get her hands on my kids again, that she had raised a lying, cheating, emotionally abusive scumbag. She raised a hand to slap me, but the bouncers and police got between us. She and my ex-father-in-law got into their car and drove off after being threatened with arrest. After calm had been restored, we all went back inside and resumed the party. I made good money that night. Even Samantha, my job's entitled gossip, couldn't deny what Bill and my ex-in-laws did was crazy. Over the weekend, I got a call from someone claiming to be Bill's ex-girlfriend, the one he cheated on me with. I asked her how she got my number, and she said she had her ways. She said she decided to call me after Bill called her, begging to get bailed out. She told me that during their relationship, my ex-mother-in-law treated her like crap and compared me and her a lot, always acting like she wasn't good enough. She was relieved when they went to Greece, believing her and Bill's relationship could be salvaged at that point, but she was wrong. Bill would also talk about me a lot, and she was always crying about being compared to his ex. When I got the job at the club, his behavior became more erratic. She confronted him after he was thrown out of the club because word travels fast, and she heard about the whole thing. He got pissed, slapped her, then threw her out of his house. She got him arrested, and he was fired from his job as a result. I thanked her for the information and promptly told her never to call me again. She asked me why, and I told her that she had no issue cheating with Bill and hurting his wife and kids, and that she was only calling me to get back at him for what he's done to her. I hung up and blocked her. I plan to go file for a restraining order today, but now I am armed with more information that will make the process so much easier and go so much faster. Win for me. Merry Christmas, everyone. For the people new to my story, I am a magnet for entitled, shitty, and psychotic people. I don't know what it is about me that draws them in, but they flock to me like moths to a flame. My mother is batshit, for those who know me. In my last post, you all read how my ex-in-laws and ex-husband, Bill, showed up at my job during the biggest event of the year. I am an exotic dancer and bartender at my current job. My ex is bitter that I am now in the best shape of my life, and I look damn good compared to when he and I were together. I am dating an amazing guy named Kyle, and my kids are doing great. On to the crazy. After my ex-in-laws were banned from my job, I sought the counsel of an attorney. I didn't want to wait it out anymore in hopes that they would just go away, like I have in the past. I'm going for the jugular with this, so to speak. I filed for an emergency restraining order, citing that my kids and I aren't safe around my ex-mother-in-law and ex-husband. My ex-father-in-law is just a shell who lets my ex-mother-in-law get away with everything and doesn't put her in her place. My restraining order was granted temporarily within 24 hours thanks to all the evidence I was able to provide. My ex-in-laws and Bill were both served that very same day. We had a hearing on the 23rd, where I was able to plead my case, and the judge got to see all the evidence I had proving why Bill and my ex-mother-in-law are dangerous for me and my kids. My ex-mother-in-law tried to pull a classic tactic of crying and wailing whenever I talked, so the judge would have to stop the proceedings to tell her to shut the fuck up. Eventually, I got through what I wanted to say and showed what I wanted. Then my ex-mother-in-law and Bill were given the chance to say their piece. My ex-mother-in-law shushed Bill and completely stuck, her foot in her mouth by blabbering on about religion and how God is judging me for not coming home to my husband's rule. The man is the Lord, while the woman is the subservient slave to his will, and I will burn in hell for not honoring our marriage. The judge reminded her that Bill and I are legally divorced. My ex-mother-in-law shouted at him that no power on earth has the right to sever a marriage that is morally and spiritually binding forever. I was chosen to be Bill's wife by God, and I will honor it, or there will be consequences. The judge asked her what she meant, and my ex-mother-in-law tried to play coy and shut up. The judge then asked Bill to say his piece. Bill looked uncomfortable. He tried to stand up, but my ex-mother-in-law grabbed his arm and told him to sit down. The judge threatened to hold her in contempt, and she let go, grumbling at him. Bill then stood up and moved away from my ex-mother-in-law. He started ranting about how crazy she is and that he didn't want to be there. He thought he could manipulate me into sleeping with him, but he got tossed out on his ass when he tried, and he gave up then and there. My ex-mother-in-law is the one who is doing all of this, and he wants no part of it anymore. His life is ruined because everything he has done has been in an attempt to appease her, and it has blown up in his face. He then begged the judge to uphold the restraining order because my ex-mother-in-law has told him that she plans to hurt me if I didn't comply with her demands. He said she was dangerous and unhinged, and suggested she needed some kind of psychological help. My ex-mother-in-law was effing speechless, but one couldn't deny the look of absolute guilt plastered on her face. Turns out, she does need psychological help. My ex-father-in-law stood up and asked to say a few words. The judge agreed because he looked to be entertained by the three-ring circus playing out in front of him. My ex-father-in-law went up to stand beside Bill and confessed to the judge that my ex-mother-in-law is suffering from the effects of dementia, and it has been a closely guarded secret between them for the past 2 years. She was receiving treatment but stopped when Bill and I moved away from the old state. Since then, she has gotten worse, and he fears what she will do if left to roam free. They have always been religious, but when my ex-mother-in-law stopped treatment, she began experiencing psychotic episodes and delusions of grandeur. He also confessed that if I had agreed to let them take my youngest to Greece, my ex-mother-in-law had no intention of bringing him back. My jaw hit the floor. My ex-father-in-law looked at me and pleaded for forgiveness for not putting a stop to the insanity sooner. Bill also apologized for the hell he had put me through, stating he had been an idiot and hoped I could forgive him. Everything seemed to fall into place, and things made sense. I never mentioned it, but I did notice that whenever I saw my ex-mother-in-law, she would be forgetful, stare off into space, seem confused at times, and sometimes didn't know who people were. I thought it was an act to avoid dealing with people. It was then I heard my ex-mother-in-law shrieking. She got up and ran at my ex-father-in-law and began beating on him until the bailiff pulled her off. She was put into cuffs, and the judge ordered her to undergo 90 days in a psychiatric treatment facility. She screamed, wailed, and kicked as she was carted out of the room. The restraining order was granted for a year. I was completely numb and had no reaction when the verdict was given. I was confused and gobsmacked out of my effing mind at what all I had just heard. I almost don't believe it even happened, and wondered if that edible I ate beforehand to calm my nerves was effing with my head. I spoke to my ex-father-in-law after court. He's taking Bill back home to the old state to help him get back on his feet. He promised me he and Bill will never bother me again, and once my ex-mother-in-law is released, he will ensure she doesn't either. I went home and hugged my kids, and we went out to look at Christmas lights that night. Side note, Christmas was great. Hope yours was too.